up to Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. Today is the third day of Chodesh Sivan. It is also our 300th day of Amud Yomi. So a big milestone to everybody that started with us at the beginning of Psachim. We are holding at the top of Yud Beis Amud Aleph, 3 days to go until Matan Torah. And the Gemara had been discussing a machlok, or a possible steer between two brises. One that says that a shul needs a mezuzah, and one that says that a shul does not need a with regards to the question of mezuzah and potentially tzaras as well, whether tzaras applies. And we had answered maybe this is a machlokas between Reb Meir and the Rabbanan, and then we had said maybe this is exclusively the opinion of Reb Meir, and then we wanted to say maybe it's exclusively, or at least additionally, the opinion of the Rabbanan, and at the top of Yud Beis Amud Aleph, that there is a difference between had the Krachim and the Kvarim. The Kvarim ein metavim v'negayim. That with regards to two different kinds of shuls of big cities are not susceptible to taras, and shuls of small towns are. And now the Gemara is going to challenge this with the following brisa. Brisa says as follows: V'hatanya, one line down from the top of Yud Beis Amud Aleph. V'hatanya, achuzatzchem, with regards to tzaras, it'll be in the land of your inheritance. Achuzatzchem etam v'negayim ve'ein Yerushalayim etam v'negayim. The land of your inheritance ends up with the potential of tzaras, but Yerushalayim does not. Meaning, Yerushalayim is not metam v'negayim. Rashi says she'ein achuz lahem, because it is not an inheritance for them. Kasavar, this is the opinion that holds. Loi nischalka leshevet Yehuda v'Binyamin, ela kol hashvatim shavim ba. This is the opinion that states that Yerushalayim was not in any particular tribe's inheritance, but it belonged to the entirety of Klal Yisrael, even though it was between the portions of Yehuda and Binyamin. And we're going to see in a moment that that is in fact a machlokas. Says the Gemara as follows: Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Ani lo shamati ela makom migdash bilvad. I heard that the only place that is not susceptible to Nagaim is the makom migdash, meaning where the Beis HaMikdash stood alone. But it would seem to be from here that the Batei Midrashos and the Batei Knesses are able to be Metam Nagaim even in Yerushalayim. Even though they are in large cities. It seems to be that large city Batei Midrash and Batei Knesses are susceptible to Nagaim, even though they're in large city. Yerushalayim certainly was a large city. So instead we should say the following. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, Ani lo shamati ela makom mekudash bilvad. No, it's not makom migdash that was susceptible to Nagaim to the exclusion of other places, but makom mekudash, meaning anything that was mekudash, including shuls and Batei Midrash, those were also not able to get Nagaim. They were not susceptible to Nagaim. B'mai kamifligi. So what exactly is this machlokas here? Tanakama, some of the Tanakama holds Yerushalayim Yerushalayim was never divided up between the tribes. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that Yerushalayim was in fact divided up between the tribes. And this is a much older machlokes, in fact. Much older machlokes than Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama. The Tanya, the Brisa says, what was in the chelik of Shevet Yehuda? That included Harabais, Valishkas, Va'azaris. Harabais, Temple Mount itself, Lishkas, all of the chambers, Va'azaris, and the courtyards. So what's left out? What was in the Chelek of Binyamin was the Ulam, the entry hall into the inside section of the Beis HaMikdash, Veheichal, and the Heichal itself, meaning the place that held the menorah and the Shulchan, and the Mizbeach HaKadosh, Ubeis Kodesh HaKadoshim, and the space that held the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Uretzui ha'isa yatsa michalka shel Yehuda v'nichnas to the chelka shel Binyamin. And there was a strap, like a strip that went out from the chelik of Yehuda and entered into the chelik of Binyamin. V'nichnas to the chelka shel Binyamin. Uvahei Mizbeach b'adon, and that's where the Mizbeach was. Meaning that there was a dividing line between them, and the area that held the Mizbeach was like jutting out of the area of Yehuda into the Chelik of Binyamin, and that's where the Mizbech was. Ubinyamin HaTzadik HaMitztar Aleh Lival B'chol Yom. And Binyamin HaTzadik was upset about this. He wanted to swallow it up every day. Just as an aside, this evening's surah is Yesod She'B'Malchus. Al Pi Kabbalah, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Is Yesod within the Malchus is the relationship between Yehuda and Binyamin. Binyamin is referred to as HaTzadik. Is referred to as Binyamin HaTzadik. The Gemara in Shabbos on Nun Hey Amud Beis writes that there were 4 people that never did any Averos. Binyamin is one of them. So that is why he is called Binyamin HaTzadik. He was upset about this. He wanted to swallow up the area of the Mizbech every day. As the pasuk says, that's from the brachas of Moshe Rabbeinu, Chafef alav kol hayam. He's dwelling on this. He's hovering above this all day. And therefore, Binyamin HaTzadik became the host of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, for the Gvura, for the Luchos and the Aron. Shenemar uvein ksefav shachein, and he dwells between his shoulders, meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence rests in its most potent form in the Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim, that is bein ksefav shachein, between the shoulders of Binyamin. That is all, if you believe, like Rabbi Yehuda does, that Yerushalayim was divided up between the Shvatim. V'hai Tana, and this Tana, there's a machlokas. So Yerushalayim lo is chalkel Shvatim. Yerushalayim was never divided up between the tribes, meaning it was never the chelik of Yehuda, never the chelik of Binyamin. It belonged to everybody equally. The Tanya, as the Brisa says, ein maskirin batim Yerushalayim. You are not allowed to rent out houses in Yerushalayim. No Airbnbs in Yerushalayim. Why? Because the city doesn't belong to the inhabitants of the city. They live there, but they live there by the grace of God, meaning nobody actually has ownership there. I suppose, so how do you own an apartment in Yerushalayim? You don't. You have squatters' rights, meaning you live there, but it doesn't actually belong to you. Rabbi Lazar bar Rabbi Tzadok Omer, Rabbi Lazar bar Tzadok says, Af loy mitas, you're also not allowed to rent out beds. Lefichach, therefore, Oris kachim bale ushpizchin, ushpizchenin, not in the Maseches B'Zra. The earth of the kachim, meaning the skins of the kachim, the left, meaning after you've offered your kachim, so then you bring them home, you eat them, meaning assuming kachim kalim. So you bring your korban toda, and then you have the skins of the of these korbanos. So the hosts, the innkeepers, no Mizrah, they would take them by force, meaning they would say, we can't charge you, but that belongs to us. Amar Abai says, Shmamina, you learn from this. You learn from this that it is appropriate that you leave leftovers for the host. Rashi points out here, what does it mean? What's the leftovers? Is kankan shel cheres, is the jugs of earthenware. Mashcha, what's mashcha? Is or behema shu sheichet va'ochel beis balabais. Is the skins of the animal that you had shechted and you had eaten in that inn. So that's the machlokas. Now the Gemara returns to the original conversation about whether or not small village shuls can be metam minagaim. Is it really true that small village shuls can become metam minagaim? Didn't we learn in Raisa la'achuza? The pasuk says it should be la'achuza ad sheyichveshu isa. Once you have conquered it, kavshu isa. Once you've conquered it, but you have not yet divided up between the tribes, you still are not able to have it be metam minagaim. Once it's divided up into tribes, you divide it into tribes, but you haven't yet divided up between the families, still is not able to be metam minagaim. Once you have been mechalik to beis avos, to the families, but you haven't figured out which person from the family takes this plot and which person from the family takes this plot, so that's still not going to enable Tumas Nagaim. Minayin, how do you know that all of these dinim are true? Talmud the pasuk says, "Uva asher loy habayis," that along will come the one whose house belongs to him. One that can say this house belongs to me. This excludes all the previous steps where you cannot claim individual ownership. And therefore we have to conclude, not like this line of reasoning. We have to conclude that where you have one brisa that says that shuls are metam v'negaim, and one brisa that says the shuls are not metam v'negaim, that it is in fact a machlokes. You cannot say that this is a consensus opinion, even according to the opinion of the Rabbanan. You have to say that this is Reb Meir versus Rabbanan. You can't say that big shul and small shul is a fair distinction, because all shuls would be precluded, at least according to this Tana, all shuls would be precluded from the from being Tamid Nagaim because of the pasuk uva asher loy habais. Once the pasuk says uva asher loy habais, that means that it is impossible to have Tumas Nagaim applying to such a home, such a shul. Okay. Back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah had said that one of the requirements of preparing the Kohen Gadol for Yom Kippurim is that you have to have a standing Kohen in case something happens to him. You have to have a standing Kohen for him. Pshita says the Gemara, this is obvious. If something happened to this Kohen, he encountered Tumah before the Tamid Shel Shachar, before the first korban was offered in the morning. Good. You would inaugurate him as the Kohen Gadol with the Tamid Shel Shachar, meaning he's going to offer the Tamid Shel Shachar, because that he is going to do wearing his 8 garments of the Kohen Gadol. That's how he's going to become the Kohen Gadol, with these 8 garments. He needs to become the Kohen Gadol in order to act as the Kohen Gadol. So that you can only do by doing that, either with Shemna Mishcha, which we'll see a little bit later, or once we no longer had Shemna Mishcha, so you would be mechanechim to do the avoda using the Shemona Begadim, the 8 special garments. But if the Tamid Shel Shachar has already been offered, and we are already up to the next section, which is only in Big Day Lavan, so this is going to be a problem, because Big Day Lavan is what the regular Kohen wears. The standing Kohen has been wearing his whole life as a Kohen, meaning his whole career as a Kohen. That works. You can inaugurate him as the Kohen Gadol with the Tamid Shel Shachar. But if he becomes apostle, something happens to him after the Tamid Shel Shachar is offered, how are you going to make the second fellow into the Kohen Gadol? Amar Rav Bar says, Rav Bar, no problem, ba'avneit. There is a difference. He can wear the avneit as he is supposed to do. Why? Okay, so what we know is the following. The Kohen Gadol in general, during the year, wears an avneit that is made out of shatnez, has wool and linen inside of it. That's his belt. On Yom Kippur, it only has, it doesn't have temin, it only has pishtin, it only has linen. So the Kohen Gadol wears a different belt on Yom Kippur than what he wears during the rest of the year. The question is, does a regular Kohen wear the same belt as a Kohen Gadol the rest of the year? Or does a regular Kohen wear the same belt as the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur? That's the question. Says Rav Bar Abba, he's going to make this. He's going to make his debut as the Kohen Gadol with his avneit. Says the Gemara, avneit shel Kohen Gadol, ze avneit shel Kohen Hedyon. This all works well if you say the avneit of the Kohen Gadol, meaning the one that he wears throughout the year, who avneit shel Kohen Hedyon, is the same one that a Kohen Hedyon wears. And therefore, when he wears the special linen one on Yom Kippur, he will be indicating that he's now the Kohen Gadol. But if you say that the Kohen Gadol's belt during the rest of the year, which is wool and linen, was not the same as the regular Kohen's belt, which was just linen, and on Yom Kippur, he wears completely the uniform of a Kohen Hedyon, but what are you going to say about that? Amar Abaye says, I'll give you another suggestion. Levish Shmoina, he's going to put on his 8 garments as the Kohen Gadol, and he's going to turn over the limbs of the one of the limbs of the Tamid Shel Shachar. He's going to flip it over, meaning he's going to do avoda on the mizbech. Now, it's not a korban that he is offering, but he is doing something to do with that avoda. This is according to the opinion of Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, Rav Huna, Zar Shafach B'Tzinara, if a non-Kohen flips over the meat onto the Mizbech, B'Tzinara with that hook, Chayav Misa, he would be Chayav Misa because that would be the Isser of, Rashi says, Mishum, Va'azar HaKarev Yumas, that a non-Kohen that does the avodah will be put to death. Now this is Chayav Misa B'dei Shemayim, not that we put him to death in a Beis Din, but Misa B'dei Shemayim. Says Rashi, it means that the things that are close to doing the avodah are also called avodah, and therefore he would be able to become the Kohen Gadol, initiated as the Kohen Gadol by doing this. Rav Papa is going to offer another suggestion about Hashem Yisbarach, which we will get to tomorrow, and wishing everybody a wonderful Gimel Sivan as we are on our way to being Mekabel the Torah in just a few days' time. We have a wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow.